So, welcome to the third episode of Perceptive Learning Zone. In this video, we will be talking about the pros and cons of online learning as well as physical learning, and what kind of challenges people usually face with both modes of learning and how to mitigate challenges of both. Over to you, Mr. Hamza.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good evening. I hope this finds you well. Thank you very much for sticking back with us for the third episode of PLZ, right? Here's to a part of a long arithmetic sequence, right? Hopefully goes up to the infinity of episodes, right? I think we can't ever get enough of these talks, right? At least I can't, right? So thank you very much, Zaid. So that is a very important topic, I feel like education has always been a cornerstone of societal progress, and its methods have constantly evolved. It's so dynamic. You see, the COVID-19 pandemic, this acted as a catalyst for a revolutionary shift. It forced a transition, from traditional physical classrooms to online learning platforms. Now, today we explore the pre-pandemic education landscape, right? We, over the course of this discussion, will be delving into the impact of COVID. We look at the advantages as well as disadvantages of both physical and online classes and see what is the solution going forward, right? What is the ultimate strategy? So, अगर हम बात करें pre-pandemic era की, that was a foundation of physical interaction, right? Prior to the pandemic, education primarily took place within the confines of physical classrooms. This traditional model, it relied on face-to-face interaction between students and teachers. You had teachers who were facilitating learning through lectures, discussions, and hands-on activities that were conducted within a structured environment. Now, I feel like the benefit of this approach was that it fostered a sense of community, right? It allowed for immediate feedback, and more importantly, there was personalized attention. Physical classrooms उन्होंने आपको access भी दिए ऐसे resources के, जैसे मिसाल के तौर पे libraries हो गई, laboratories हो गई, जो घर पे उतनी ज़्यादा readily available नहीं होती, right? Unless you are Walter White. Yes. However, the pre-pandemic system wasn't without limitations. You had geographical barriers that were restricting access to quality education, especially in remote areas, right? Obviously, you couldn't compare the quality of physical education in Lahore versus Quetta, for example. So, a lot. Additionally, क्या होता है कि आपकी जब class size बहुत बढ़ जाती है, it sort of becomes like an election rally. It hinders personalized learning. So you are catering less effectively to individual learning styles, which means bottom line that your classes are becoming more teacher-centered instead of student interactive. अगर हम university level पे देखें, we move towards OBE, that is outcome-based education. We now want sessions to be more student interactive, and I feel like these big, bulky physical classes, they get in the way of that, right? अब जब pandemic आया, there was a forced transition towards online learning. I feel like the global pandemic, it definitely did disrupt traditional education, right? It necessitated a rapid switch to online learning platforms. Schools and universities, they embraced video conferencing tools, learning management systems, and online resources to deliver education remotely. And I think that this paradigm shift, right? There are all these two sides of the coin. It had both challenges as well as opportunities, right? So, what are the challenges? Well, obviously, I would say the biggest challenge would be the lack of digital infrastructure in certain regions. There is a limited access to technology for the students from underprivileged backgrounds, and the potential for social isolation due to the lack of physical interaction. Moreover, there are concerns, nowadays regarding the effectiveness of online assessments and the potential for distraction in the home learning environment. मतलब मुझे पता है क्लास में मैं बच्चे को पढ़ा रहा हूँ वो serious नहीं है. How do you expect him to be serious, with a blank screen on, right? So, despite these challenges, online learning के अब कुछ फवायद भी हैं. You can't just nullify the plus points, right? It is providing greater flexibility for students. They are being able to learn at their own pace. They can continuously revisit record lectures. उसके साथ साथ what I feel like Zain said, what it is also doing is that it is opening doors to a wider range of educational resources. It is facilitating collaboration beyond geographical limitations. So I would say definitely in a nutshell, if you were to summarize, the pros of physical classes would be, the plus points of physical classes would be enhanced interaction and communication. You would have reduced distractions. You would have improved social interaction as well as more access to resources. Whereas, in a nutshell, the drawbacks of physical classes would be large class sizes, limited flexibility, and geographical limitations. Similarly, अगर हम ऑनलाइन क्लासेस के फवायद की बात करें, the pros would be flexibility, you got accessibility, you got wider range of resources, and you got, fundamentally speaking, you got reduced costs. And along with that, if you look at the cons of online classes, well, I would say obviously there's a digital divide, right? Then there's social isolation, there's a potential for distractions, or साथ में there's a challenge with assessment. Obviously, ensuring academic integrity in online assessments, that is always going to remain a massive concern. Um, a question that is often asked by us academics is that is often posed rather to us academics is that how do you enhance productivity in online classes? Thinking way about it, it takes two to tango, right? University. So to ensure effective learning, you have to realize that it has to be a two-way. Some impetus is required in part of the teacher, but also the students got to realize that the ball is in their court as well, and it is on them how far they go from up here, right? So several strategies that you can implement to optimize student productivity in online classes, I would say number one, go for a structured learning environment. Create a dedicated study space at home that minimizes distractions and promotes focus. Tell yourself that I'm sitting in this room. I'm not going to have my cell phone with me. I'm not going to have my laptop with me. I'm not going to have my iPad with me. I'm not going to have my buddies grilling me 24/7, right? It's going to be a full concentration zone, a zone of silent internal self reflection, and that would help you enhance your efficiency, fundamentally speaking. Apart from that, time management skills. I would say developing effective time management skills helps students prioritize tasks and meet deadlines. Time is everything. That's what I would say. Active participation. Make sure you guys engage actively with the students out there. Make sure you engage actively in online discussions. You ask questions and you participate in virtual group activities because that fundamentally promotes better learning, right? फिर हम बात करते हैं टेक्नोलॉजिकल लिटरेसी के बारे में हमें टेक्नोलॉजिकल लिटरेसी की जरूरत है we need to make sure that we develop proficiency in online learning platforms and communication tools. There's so many people who still don't know how to share a Zoom link, with others in the group. So this is a problem. You need to make sure you are more up to date with technology. In other words, being more tech savvy. That I believe fosters a much more smoother learning experience. Along with that, देखिए जिंदगी में regularity बहुत important है. A regular interaction with instructors and classmates through video conferencing tools or online forums, it fosters a sense of community and engagement, right? Um, I think what we need is a blend of both things, right? The best of both worlds going forward. So I would say that the pandemic experience, it most definitely has highlighted the potential of online learning tools. Moving forward, education may very well adopt a blended learning approach, and I think it would essentially combine the best aspects of both physical and online classes, right? देखिए आईफोन 12 13 का जमाना है राइट अभी नहीं कहते कि हमें वही पुराना जो नोकिया बटन्स वाला था हमने उस पर वापस जाना है राइट नो वन वुड एक्सेप्ट दैट राइट सो online classes have come into the equation. They are here to stay. Now you just have to make the most out of it, right? So we need a holistic approach that amalgamates both physical and online classes. And this could involve, I would say, using online platforms for delivering lectures and accessing resources while also reserving physical classrooms simultaneously. Um, what I would say is that, guys, uh, you know, what I mean, I often see a lot of students saying, I wish I wasn't brought up in this era. Zoom sucks, Chat GPT sucks. Well, they never say Chat GPT sucks, because it's made giving assignments a piece of cake for them, right? But they are always saying this, that, blah, blah, making excuses and stuff. And what we need to understand one thing is that tough times don't last, but tough people do, right? You don't always get a fairy tale ending. And one thing जो स्कूल में कभी नहीं सिखाई गई हमें वो ये है कि life is not fair. It is not a bed of roses. Crises जो होते हैं ना ये आपको shape करते हैं, right? The Andes plane crash incident, if you've ever watched the documentary, right? The plane crashed in the Andes for 2 3 months. They were stranded with no food, no shelter, had to resort to cannibalism to survive. But 16 out of 45 people made it back to the ground and they survived to tell the tale. And today they have been, today they are an inspiration for so many people when it comes to crisis management. So, कहने का मतलब ये है कि tough circumstances they build character. It is all about the circle of life, right? Um, Good times they create weak men create bad times create tough circumstances create strong men. So it is a circle of life. What you need is resilience, the ability to get through the crisis, the ability not to lose your nerves, not to lose your cool, and to remain calm, composed, and professional no matter what avalanche life reflects in your direction. Resilience is crisis management. It is not, resilience is not what happens to you. You can't, control some of that, obviously, right? Resilience is how you react to, respond to, and recover from what happens to you. You know, the moment we believe that success is simply determined by an ingrained level of ability as opposed to resilience and hard work, we will be brittle in the face of adversity. Resilience, guys, is all about being able to overcome the unexpected. Sustainability is about survival. Sustainability क्या होता है? Survival. रेजिलियंस का गोल क्या है कि आपने थ्राइव करना है, सक्सीड करना है, प्रॉस्पर करना है, अपने आप को तरक्की की राह पे गामजन करना है. The art of crisis management ultimately is to raise the stakes to where the adversary will not follow, but in a manner that avoids a tit for tat. रेजिलियंस के देखें बहुत सारे कंपोनेंट्स इंसान के कैरेक्टर में, उसकी पर्सनालिटी में होने चाहिए, राइट? नंबर वन, यू नीड टू बी ऑप्टिमिस्टिक. Number two, you have this self belief. May God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can change, but more importantly, the wisdom to know the difference. The third thing, control of self. Reminds me of that movie Fight Club. Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, right? We have no great war. We have no great depression. A great war is a spiritual war. A great depression is our lives. Control of self, right? Your comfort zone is killing you, right? You got to come out of it. Your willingness to adapt, your willingness to be flexible, your ability to solve problems, emotional awareness, social support, sense of humor, right? So these things are very important. So always remember that it is never over until you say it is over. And I think I would just like to conclude by a poem I once learned on resilience, and that is: when storms rage and skies grow dark, and love's tempests threaten to leave their mark, remember this truth deep in your core: resilience resides within you evermore. Like a sturdy oak that bends but won't break, you rise from adversity, your spirit awake. Scars may form, wounds may heal, but your strength endures an unyielding seal. When trials test your mettle and courage wanes, summon the fire within, break free from chains. For resilience is not mere survival, it's more. It's striving, blossoming, even after the storm. So stand tall, my friend. So stand tall, my friend. Face life's gales. Let resilience be your anthem, your sails. With each setback, you'll find your way. For within your heart, resilience holds sway. That'll be pretty much it from my side. Anything you'd like to add on to it?
I think we pretty much covered everything. Just like to say the purpose of this video was to encourage students to embrace the digital world and not be afraid of the challenges. And so in the end, I would just say, let's work together, teachers and students. Let's all of us work together and create positive learning environment, whether it's online or in person. Thank you very much.
God willing. It was a pleasure catching up with you, fellas. You stay blessed and see you very soon for the upcoming fourth episode of PLZ, on the table, off the record, and very, very hush hush. Stay blessed, guys. Assalamu alaikum.